Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my own tier 2 to my tier 1. It's Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Good to have you along. Also joining us for real this time, it's Mr. Rob Symes. It's the Honest Wargamer himself. How you doing, brother?
Bonjour, merci, pourquoi?
I don't think those all meant what you intended them to mean, but that's fine.
I'm going very European nowadays, so yeah.
I understand. Yes, you're cultured. I get it.
Pourquoi?
Yeah. Bienvenue.
So today we are going to be discussing, when we get to our feature segment, we're going to be discussing the meta. We're going to start taking swings at the meta in advance of two, let's say, probably the first two, like, quote unquote, big normal tournaments of AoS 2.
In advance of any real knowledge or data.
Yeah, and in advance of the FAQ, and in advance of any real data sets. Yes, we're going to take wild swings at the AoS meta and start talking about what we think is good and what we think is bad. And you feel free to agree or disagree in either the commentary running along with the show or the comments down below, because we don't really know what we're talking about. We're making, I would say, educated guesses, but that is very disingenuous and unfair to the word education.
Yeah, but if they disagree, then obviously they're wrong.
I mean, clearly,
yeah.
That's the subtext.
That's yeah.
So we're gonna get into that, but of course, news. Go, Tom.
So we have news this week?
I mean, not really, but sure. We have a little slow news week.
We have a rumor engine. Let's start there.
Oh boy. Sure.
Oh boy.
So we'll start with the rumor engine. This exceedingly boring rumor engine.
Oh no.
All right, here we go.
What does it look like?
A nothing, a hot nothing with a side of nothing fries. There you go. That's what it looks like.
It looks like is it a Georgia O'Keeffe painting?
God bless it. You stole my joke. How did we Georgia O'Keeffe lined up? God. Yes.
Oh, it's amazing. I can't wait till this model comes out. It's even better.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's something.
It's a swirly nipple.
Yep.
A yawning opening.
Yeah, have you guys not done some sort of what is the psychological test you take when you look at the ink blotches?
Oh, sure. Yeah. What if I don't know, ink blot test? Yeah, sure.
Yep. That thing. Yeah. You could be like, what does everyone see? And everyone's
definitely
like,
a yawning portal.
Yeah, it's just a hole.
I mean, I jokingly say that, but it kind of looks like the spell portal. It's reminiscent.
Kind of, yeah, but it's much more ovular and even in its like distribution.
I think it's the textured base for the long rumored hippopotamus riders of destruction.
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, long rumored. But my issue is that obviously they've put sharks in the Idoneth Deepkin, and as most people know, sharks aren't actually particularly dangerous based on deaths per year. However, hippos, terrifying.
Much more, absolutely, and a much more destructive.
It's a true story.
So
if they don't make a faction based on hippos, they're not making their own money. What are they doing?
Yes, this could be anything or anyone for any army in any game. So there you go. You heard it here first. Okay.
Okay, we'll move on. Forge World Open Day. Speaking of Forge World, we have some folks tinkering on some Forge World stuff as we speak.
It's true. Yeah. 2 out of the 3 people in this chat are messing with Forge World. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, they are actually, and Jonathan, there he is from the side, is also painting some secret Forge World. Yeah, really exciting.
A full 75% of people are working on Forge World. Tom, why are you the odd man out? Get your Forge World out, Tom. I know you got something.
I really don't now. Like, it's funny and sad.
You sold off all your
because-
cats like a loser.
Yeah, and all my Moon Clan. The irony is that I almost put another Moon Clan order in like this week, just because I know with the Moon Clan that's dropping this fall, like it's going to be like sell like hotcakes and be out of stock forever. Once Moon Clan actually drops, and so I was like, maybe I should get it ahead of time, and I was like, nah, that's way too much work. So, yeah, I didn't do that.
But smart. That was a smart thing to not do and do.
Exactly. I thought about it.
Good plan.
So well. Forge World Open Day. You got anything to say about that, Vince?
It happened. They didn't release anything for AoS, which is unsurprising. There was a lot of cool stuff, but go ahead, Rob.
Sorry, interesting fact. I'm sure we're all aware, but there's someone who's been doing the rules writing job for Forge World for Warhammer Forge, so that's the Age of Sigmar part of Warhammer, for over a year now.
Yep. And apparently it doesn't flow through to the models just yet.
Oh, no, it does.
That guy is under no pressure. He is not on performance-related pay. His manager's like so chill. He's like, "What have you done this month?" And he's like, "Listen, we've had some great thoughts in the department of just you. Yeah, I've had some great thoughts, and I've decided we'll wait a bit longer." Probably 7 years.
Sure.
No, I mean, we did get like a bunch of new rules, to their credit with AoS 2.
Yes.
A bunch of them are worse. Like all the Exalted Demons are worse than they were.
I have something to report. Absolutely, yes. We also got those guys. Fair point. Pope hat in full effect. Yes. Look, in defense of the Exalted Keeper of Secrets, she's still about the best in the business when we don't have a new kit. So I did take her out for a spin this last weekend, and holy crap, she is a depravity machine. Like, I earned 84 depravity points in a single game. So, just saying.
I did that Saturday night.
It was all depravity all night. Yeah. They trade at a different rate at the bar than they do on the table. Yes, that's true. It's absolutely true. You summon very different things too, but somehow end up in much the same spot. It's weird.
You guys are great.
So, but anyway, Tom, yes, I mean, my hope is eventually we'll see some stuff we didn't. I will say the Blood Bowl cheerleaders looked really awesome. You could certainly do some fun integration of those. Like, there's nothing non-fantasy about those. The little Daemonette cheerleaders are cool and have plenty cool weapons. Those would be great conversions for Doc or for Slaanesh eventually. And same with like the orcish female cheerleaders are like incredible. So, those would be cool integration.
Did you just say orcs are incredible?
Yeah, they look great. I have no problem with orcs, as long as they're Ironjawz or those female cheerleaders. Thus endeth the list.
What about, and this is pretty cool, what about the new Necromunda gang, which, while a little bit mechanized, I agree, could possibly make either amazing Sigmar, they're not called Cult of Sigmar, they're called Devoted of Sigmar models, or potentially even free guild like handgunners, or, especially with those candles, if you theme them from the Realm of Life, they're pretty swish.
Oh, I think they would be great. No, I do agree with that. I should have mentioned those guys too. They look like zealots sort of thing. I mean, that's what they are, right? I mean, they have that like religious zealot look to them. They would eat like with a little bit of bit removal or, some minor scraping. You're in like Flynn right there. You're good to go.
Yeah. Hashtag agree.
Hashtag agree.
So yes, I don't know that I do them as devoted because I don't know that there's anything in that army, but that's for a later discussion. That's for the part after the news.
Sigh. Yeah. Yes. Do we have any? Oh yeah. So we have 2 events coming up this weekend. Both Bobo and Meltdown, Midwest Meltdown. And as Domus is the TO for Midwest Meltdown, I don't know who does Bobo, but it looks like the comp packs, in lieu of a FAQ, the comp packs are in full effect.
Yes. Was there anything that caught your eye out of there? I mean, most of it fixes the stuff you would expect it to fix. That is the outstanding issues that arose in Six Nations. right?
Well, the most obviously predictable problems from Sick Nations, right?
Yes. The sort of the Engine of the Gods problem, the Croak problem, the Ripper-Dipper-Doo problem, all this
stacking commandability problem.
Sure. Yeah, the sort of Anvils of Heldenhammer, tons of shots before you in turn, basically top of one, you eliminate most of the enemy army through shooting, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even like Engine of Gods, like for I think about like the Midwest Meltdown, like the Engine of Gods comp for them was that the units can't move after they're summoned. But that still doesn't like fix the 5 Engine of the Gods summoning every turn. So yeah.
But generally, isn't the underlying opinion we're waiting for an FAQ for Games Workshop?
Yes,
we are indeed
for competitive match play, Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I mean, for some of these, I would be a little bit skeptical. Like one of theirs for Midwest is that like you have to have paid the points cost for an endless spell in order to use it in a game. Like I know that sounds silly, but a lot of things I think about the Changeling or like Curselings, like that, when they counter, they can recast. Where like that neuters them surprisingly. There was another one that said that like you can't use endless, or you can never give like faction spells to anybody like allies. And while that seems legit, like Arkan grabs all death spells for death casters, and then like there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to cast those spells because he knows them at that point. And so just some stuff like that it raised an eyebrow for me, is what I would say.
That's going to be the thing about compacts, right? As we go forward, if Games Workshop decides to keep the game as is, and some people feel that it isn't interactive, and I suppose the great question about compacts going forward are they designed to make the game more balanced, which is probably chasing the dragon, a term for opium users, but basically impossible. Or are you trying to make the people who come to your event have a better time in whatever way you see that to be fitting? And I'm pretty certain that it's John Green who organises Bobo, along with Johnny, John, and Nathan. Those guys definitely have said, and the reason they want the pack to be the way it is because they want more interactive games.
Right.
Which I find, especially like they've made the first turn is a roll-off, but with +1. So, I mean, that's a massive change to our game, like Age of Sigmar as a game. But it's really interesting that the organisers have come out and said the reasoning is not leveling out of the game, but making the game more interactive for every game, which I think is really fascinating and a really good direction, personally.
Well, I mean, the reality is when most people talk about a bad game or having a bad time, it's because somebody was able to execute some plan without needing their opponent to be at the table, right? The more you can put your list on autopilot and not care about what the opponent does, the less good the game is going to be for both players at the table, right? Like that's just kind of a standard rule. It's the combo problem that Magic always had and why people hated those kinds of decks. Because if it just shows up and like does a thing, and I win, okay, you can take your stuff and go home now. Like the fact that you were here or you had your army or we rolled this scenario, all of that's irrelevant. I was going to show up and do this thing. I thought about this thing beforehand. I sat down my models. I did the thing. You lose. Who cares? You could have been any warm body with any figs in the universe, and this would have still happened. And the more that that's the case, the worse the game is. Right? That's a pretty direct correlation.
100%.
Much to the chagrin of people like Tom who love to play like that. So,
oh, Tom. Oh, you're gonna take that.
I like Vince doesn't like. I'm not even gonna go into it. That's fine.
He was gonna try to nuance me out of my view, but I'm right.
I like to outthink my opponent. Sorry.
Sure. No, that's the classic defense. The classic defense. All right. Anyway, so I mean, yeah, I think we're probably expecting the FAQ based on what we've seen to come next week, like at the beginning of next week. So it will be interesting to see what drops. Not only answering these questions, by the way, but there's a lot of other floating questions right now. So
I have a question.
Go.
What if it doesn't? And my follow-up question is how long do you think is appropriate before it becomes bad customer service?
I'd give them another, like before I got angry about it, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Another 2 or 3 weeks, probably. You know, like I think I'm more than tolerant enough to say, yeah, another 2 or 3 weeks. There's clearly a lot of questions. It's a whole edition changeover. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt to get it right. So if the choice is get it fast or get it right, in this case, I'll take get it right. Now, my patience has limits, right? But I think in this case, given the situation, I'm willing to be a little more patient than I am wanting it now. Like I mean, I played a couple games last weekend and none of this stuff came up because, again, the people I was playing with, we all understood that this was out there and nobody took that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's not possible to have a good game right now. It just makes it more, the longer it goes, the more tournaments happen, the more you make the TOs pick up the slack. Right?
Yes.
And that's the inconvenience.
Yeah. I just played today. I played a Legion of Nagash army. And I killed 1,500 points at turn 5. You definitely wouldn't know that I'd killed 1,500 points because there was still most of the army on the board. I mean, it'd come back on the board, but I was like, I've killed you more than once. Get off the board. So I think that's interesting. Very interesting.
Did I mention 84 depravity points? I mean, I summoned 2 new Keepers of Secrets, a new Exalted Chariot, a Herald on Chariot, a Herald on Exalted Chariot. Like, you know, I get it. My opponent had to fight through like 5 Keepers of Secrets over the span of the game. So, you know, that's a lot.
That is a lot. That's great, though.
But I still lost that game, by the by. Just to point out, like, I still lost that game. Hence my level of skill. 5 greater demons on the table, and I can't close the deal. But there we are. So, you know, it doesn't always matter. But sure, like, death isn't an interesting one. I do have to wonder if, obviously, you can say we'll just kill the general, or something like that. I assume Nagash was actually the general in the LON army you were playing, right?
No, it was Archon.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, it's probably less exploitative because Archon is somewhat killable. There are armies that just can't take out Nagash, right? And when that suddenly happens, they can bury a graveyard and always have the ability to bring a unit back on, right?
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting going forward. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, and also just playing tons of games because, like, I mean, yeah, I played against an extra maybe 1,000 points today, but I won the game. Right. So, you know, I don't really know what to say about that. You know, I mean, it was interesting. I'm really looking forward to getting the VPs, but like, I'm like, yes, more VPs. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, we'll
talk about some of
this
soon. Segment. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we'll talk more about this. I think at the end of the day, yeah, it'll skew the meta, I think, in a hard way. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So, all right. That's the news.
That's the news. It's quick news. So let's move to some pick of the week. So, gentlemen, Rob, what would you like to share to everybody? What video, blog, podcast, or any of the other 32 things that you've done this last week and put up across your media empire would you like to share? Or whatever you want to share.
It doesn't have to. I've made it not be from me.
Hey, even you know what? That's a big man of you. So I'm gonna take the thunder away from you and say, if you're not participating in the massive media deluge of content that Rob is producing with the Honest Wargamer and with everybody else, what are you doing with your life? Get on board with that. Go sub to him on Twitch. Go follow him on Twitter. Go watch his stuff on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast. The man is coming at your ear holes in every way he can, trying his best to entertain you. And you're sitting here just not even paying attention. That is rude. That is rude. All right.
Thanks
now, Rob, back to you. What would you like to share, sir?
That's very much. Is there anything that we've put out recently that you've enjoyed?
Yes, absolutely. The most recent episode that you guys, or no, what wasn't the most recent? Because I'll be honest, I skip your 40K stuff.
That's fine. That's fine.
no offense at all. It's just not, it's just not in my wheelhouse. But not the Chaos Dwarves when you did, what did you see? Sorry, I have to go back. Dude, I listened to a lot of the stuff. Yeah, your Skaven interview. There you go. Yeah, dude. I was all about that rat interview, man. That was great.
Yeah, that guy blew my mind. I was sat there just like, wow. That was great. He's like, I don't really even play. I just charge a little bit and hold objectives. I was like, wow, okay. we are approaching the game in vastly different ways. So, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, Dan's great.
And by the way, if anybody wants to hear more about the Six Nations issues we're talking about, that was another episode that was really good. You and the rest of your crew did a big Six Nations breakdown where you went through beat by beat the various sort of challenges that had come up. So people can refer back to that. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that was a good, healthy chat. So I'd like to. There's a guy called Hey Woe.
Yeah, Hey Woe Twitch, absolutely.
Hey Woe on Twitch, and he is a lovely selection of punky righteousness, which I enjoy, hidden behind a somber mask. That's how I would describe him. And yeah, he's got some. I think he makes some good, interesting conversations, some good points. Makes me laugh. He's not shy about being critical, which I enjoy. So yeah, I'd go check him out on YouTube and possibly Twitch as well.
Nice. Yes, definitely. I second that recommendation. He's actually moving house right now, so he's been a little out of new content, but there's definitely more coming. So there you go.
Oh, awesome.
Tom, what about you, brother? What do you got?
Yeah, one of the Southern gamers, Reverend Dangles, Jacob Burleson, did a guest post on AoS Shorts on the Age of Sigmar calendar, and it's a fun kind of lore bit on timekeeping in AoS, and from what we can tell from the lore. So it's just a real fascinating kind of weird corner article that I got into it and I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Oh, so, nice. Like, in other words, how time moves in a place where there's not a world rotating.
Well, not only that, like, from the data that we have from the lore things. So what he does is he looks at the Behind the Walls short story.
Yep.
In the diary entries, and he's like, from the, and he breaks down, like, from these entries we can use the calendar used in this part of the realms. And then he goes through and like identifies a bunch of that data and then begins to put together like the months and the days, the types of days. So not just like, not Monday, but like Moon's Day and Star's Day, Void's Day. Like, so there's a bunch of weird random lore. Yeah. And so he pulled all that together, and it's this really wonky, weird calendar. It's
That's
fantastic.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I want to encourage you all to go look at it and be like, you think you know about the lore of the mortal realms? Here you go. We don't either, but take a look.
All right. So mine is going to be, I'm going to return back to the rats. This is going to be a rat-focused show for me in a lot of little ways. I mentioned your review, but there's Doom and Darkness put up a little 6-minute video on his channel about how to use Clan Rat's retreat and charge sort of ability to your best advantage, as he shows how you would hold up like a bunch of different critical units and set that up, and how you use this chaff unit, these Clan Rats, which are very throwaway, but actually an incredible tool, because you can get 40 of them for freaking 200 points and they can retreat and charge. How you can use them to control the board. It's like a little 6-minute video, and it really explores them, and I dig the heck out of it. So there you go. Check that out. Clan Rats are powerful. Okay. So all those will be linked down below. Now, let's talk about some hobby time. Rob, you're in a bar putting Warhammer miniatures together. I love everything about the previous sentence I just said. What are you working on?
Pardon me. I'm currently putting together some bull centaurs for the Legion of Asgore, and then I have 60 Chaos Dwarves to put together. Big shout out also to Dispossessed Dan over in Australia. Screw you, Dispossessed suck, and the Legion of Asgore are the best. We have a pretty funny show coming out on Friday where me and Dan are going to do a monthly segment where we row about who is the best dwarf, and obviously he hates that I'm a Chaos Dwarf, so that's going to be fun. I played them today, and they were really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to. I've already got a pretty full army painted up, but I'm probably going to want about 120 dwarves, so I've only got about 50 painted so far, so I need to get on it. And then I don't know if I want to, and then I've got 2 Iron Demons to do and a bunch of stuff. I'm very much looking forward to playing with this army. It's going to be very fun.
Nice. Now, I have follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Follow-up question: the first, how many bodies are going to be on this table in your sort of average list that you're scheming out? What's your range?
So I honestly fascinated by the army. I think it's a tournament winning army, but I don't know what it looks like yet. I don't know if it's 2 blocks of 30 shields and board and sword dudes with 2 units of 25 glaives and then loads of wizards, or it's a couple of war machines and some wizards. That feels like it's too static and it doesn't go and get objectives. So
The
maybe
Iron
not
Demons
that.
drive them.
But then I'm like the Iron Demons, which are behemoths and not war machines. Yeah, so I can take 4 of them and still take 4 war machines, so I can make an incredibly shooty army and still take some bodies on the board. I do think hordes are probably going to be the strongest part of this new edition of the game. But then at the same time, I think the Bull Centaurs, if I work them right, could do incredibly well in the execution herd. And then there's outliers like, are the Khaine going to be incredible? And lots of people really rating them. I'm not so sure at the minute, but yeah. So I think there's potentially, I think probably the max is looking at something like 150 dwarves.
That's a huge number of bodies at the high end. Yeah, that's crazy.
With 4 up saves.
Sure. Yes. I mean, that's terrifying. It's a terrifying number of bodies. No, that's interesting because I figured your answer mimicked what I expected, because I expected that there'd be some low number where you were relying more on the like mass artillery train that you can put together in that army, or whatever you want to say, like war machine train. I understand I'm being indelicate because I have no better word. And then probably the less of those you've got, the more just dwarf bodies start piling up. Question the second: are you going to have occasional guests on your weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, dwarf down, wherein you have like somebody come in and represent Fire Slayers and tries to have a place, or someone come in and represent KO, and then you just spend the whole show yelling at them and making fun of them?
Do you mean the Dwarven Council that I'm about to set up?
Yes, that is what I meant.
Do you mean that there will be an appointed dwarven leader for each of the factions across the globe, and then they will meet in council once a month? Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, then I approve of all of this. It's wonderful.
Because I think that would be incredibly fun, right?
As long as there's copious amounts of grumbling, it's acceptable.
Of course.
Like,
well, only
in true
from the
dwarf
dispossessed.
fashion.
Well, I don't know. We kind of the Legion of Asgore don't grumble. We hate. We have shields called spike shields.
That's fair. That's fair.
As a Skaven player, in my heart of hearts, I love this idea because then I know where all the dwarven leadership is in one place. So when I send in the assassins, it makes it much easier. We can take you all out simultaneously and end this threat. So I like where your head's at.
Good.
All right, great. So I look forward to seeing the army as it progresses and to how you do on the tabletop. Tommy, what are you working on, brother?
Terrain. Like, I don't know what happened to my head, but I was like, you know what I ought to do? I ought to build like 3 tables worth of terrain and just start painting all of it. And so that's what I've been doing. So I made this like sweet little like shrine thing that I've been working on, a bunch of like stuff, and then I had like this Stonehenge that I'm like working on, the Sigmar symbol, and that's pretty sweet. And then I have like this other set of like scattered terrain ruins that I'm working on, and so that's happening too. And I have this monastery, and that's happening. Working on that.
Can we just hold on a moment? I'm going to lock on Tom. Tom, I'd like you to lean forward to your left in the way you just
so much.
did. Okay?
I hate you so much.
Just while you're locked on, just lean forward to your left. Thank you. So if we could all take a look over Tom's right shoulder, so screen left. I can't help but notice, Tom, the massive stack of Chaos Hellforts. What is going on there? Can we just talk about that for a minute? That is a human-sized stack of Hellforts.
The 2 brown boxes in the bottom area down there may or may not all also be Hellfort bits. One of them is all Crucibles.
Mhm.
And then the other one is all the other generic AoS terrain and like a Malefic Gate and I think another tower.
What are you planning to do?
This is the question. Yes. Are you trying to like become a Chaos Warlord? Do you believe that if you build enough of these in reality, that the Dark Gods will somehow bless you? Is that your goal?
So I am in the process. I've been in this process for a while of like secreting away Hellforts over the last 3 years. Like anytime I would get a really good deal, I would like just buy it and put it in a box. Much like a Skaven player would do. And my desire is I'm going to build a table.
Like an all Hellfort. You're going for like a Mordheim table, but in Chaos Hellforts.
I am.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a Nurgle. It's gonna be so for those that remember my Nurgle army, it was the like the theme of it was like a Realm of Beasts Nurgle army, and it was Meyerguard was the keep that they occupied, and like my board was like this gate. Anyway, so I've built out 5 additional panels that match up with the edge of my board.
Yep.
For my display board. Yep. And those 5 panels are going to come together to create a 6x4 board that I'm going to use that corner that was my board with the rest of this stack to create a ruined Meyerguard. And so
you're gonna have. I think you should have the center as Chaos Undivided, like a central circular keep. Split the table into 4 quadrants. Nurgle left, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Khorne. You have then the 4 gods. That's a sweet table.
I hear you, but no. So it's going to be, I'm actually going to build this huge, so right now I may be the central tower. I have 2 Overlord Bastions, and I'd really like a 3rd to make this happen. But I'm going to have like the Nurgle symbol made out of crucibles. The crucibles, which are the big, like the big cauldrons, like 3 of those is the Nurgle like symbol as part of this huge tower at the center. So
wow, that's amazing.
That's the vision of the table, and it's going to be like because of all the broken walls. Like I have a bunch of the the collapsed wall bits as well that I ordered that were like direct order. So I have a bunch of those, and it's going to be like a bunch of collapsed wall sections, and it's already on a plateau. Like it's built up around the edge, and there's this big like mucky moat all around it, and so it's that project is in progress, and so I'm doing a couple small tables before I do that big one.
Well, I look forward to 2020 when we see it completed, Tom. So I'm excited. I'm making real progress on this terrain. No, you are. That's great. I made like 1 piece of terrain last week, and I was like, well, I'm done for the year. I did my terrain job. So
no, like it's so fulfilling, and I still stare all at my Daughters of Khaine over there, and I'll get back to them.
Sure you will. It's fine.
Wow. I had a plan. So some people may or may not know that the Chaos War Mammoth is now excellent.
If they watched our Arcanum review, then they know it's
the one that you weren't here for. We talked about that.
I apologize.
It's okay.
I abased myself before the wizards of the internet. But he also, Slave to Darkness keyword can be allied in with the Legions of Asgore. And I was thinking I've obviously got the Howder for him for my Chaos War Mammoth, but I was thinking of taking a Chaos Bastion and then also building that atop, and then putting loads of dwarves around it and building a quite ridiculous towering kind of fort atop the War Mammoth's back using the Chaos Hell Fort. So
it's amazing. It is. That's a great idea. I can only pray that they bring that kit back, is what I would say. I know it won't probably come back, but I really, really, really hope it does.
You're saying the Mammoth?
Yeah, the War Mammoth. Like I know that there's like you can do the Mumak, and I had a Mumak, and it's not the same.
That's fine. I mean, that's until they do. There's gonna be a lot of Mumaks hitting tables around the world. So
Yeah, I know.
that's that. Okay. For myself, I am working on my Warpnaw Vermin Lord. He is what is this? Look at that. He's like that thing is like a house cat.
I'm so jealous. You have no idea.
That's
it's
right.
So beautiful.
Be jealous. Although, unlike the Bale Taurus that Drazaroth the Ashen is on, they haven't. Well, maybe this is a lady. Actually, never mind. I apologise. I assumed the mammoth's gender, and I shouldn't have.
No, exactly.
We just talked about that with the Warpnaw. Like,
Yeah,
that dude's packing.
Yeah, this dude is also modeled realistically, hence why I had to add like underwear to him.
He is packing, is what we would say.
Disturbing. I'm just like I'm finishing up on his base as well. And the fun story about this guy is that last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever, week and a half ago, I painted an army in a week. That was my challenge for myself, right? So in something like 50 to 60 hours, I did like a 2,000 point gunline, funline army, right? Of all these tanks and all this stuff from Order. It has taken me, I have easily spent twice as many hours on this guy, bringing him up to the standard I'm trying to put him at, than I did on that entire army. So, you know, that's if anybody ever, if you want to know what the difference is in time between like speed tabletop painting and competition painting, that's a good example. I'm going to be easily twice as much for one figure as I was for the whole army. So that's a good measure.
And that's worth it if you want to do that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely. Yes. I've loved every minute of it. Yes. Yeah. It's great. This figure is truly awesome. He's a great figure. He did require some updates, namely the aforementioned underoos. And I had to add some fur to him as well, because he's normally like a naked rat, like he's completely furless, which is weird and creepy. Like the normal Warpnaw has no fur on him, but I had to add, like if you can see there, I had to add fur to like his back and such, because he just looked weird. He needed the Vermin Lord has fur and stuff. So
you've done something also to his staff, right?
Yes, the scythe. I added the extra hook to go for the full trident from the normal Vermin Lord. Yeah,
looks amazing.
So there we go. He should be done hopefully real soon. Okay, so I'm very excited about this dude, and he finally is returning to the ridiculous basing that I enjoy, where I'm going for just a whole diorama on his base. That's what I enjoy. So let's turn to it. Let's gentlemen, start your engines. Let's get into it. It's time to start the wild guessing, the tinfoil hatting, the theory crafting, the math hammering. All of the things that will inevitably become egg on our face when we are proven wrong in 1, 2, 3, 6 months. Who cares? But now is the time when we are going to discuss the various factions that are out there. And what I want to structure this a little. So I want to think of as we frame our discussions on them, and we can kind of go round robin here, leading the discussion. I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the faction, kind of the potential future changes we would see coming and how that could impact it, and what we think their overall place is in the meta. You can reference that in the very gray tiers, or whether you just think they're really strong or really weak or whatever. I don't care. I don't like all that stuff is just an artificial construct anyways. There's no real such thing. So let's get into it. And I feel that the only place we could start, if we're going to start with the discussion of factions, by the way, we're not going to talk about everything. Like we're not going to talk about like fire bellies and crap like that. We're going to work our way through real factions, as it were.
Like free the fire belly.
Correct. So we're going to talk about something you can actually build an army out of. Okay. For example, Swift Hawk agents, not a real army. They suck. There you go. Done and dusted. Shut up. Done and dusted. Next army. See, we solved that one quick.
I'm going to go win an army with that turn. With that army.
I encourage you to do so. Prove me wrong, please. Okay, so, but if we're going to start somewhere, we have to start with the Golden Boys themselves. the army with perhaps the most single scrolls of any single faction, and that is Stormcast. So, Rob, why don't you kick us off? What do you think of Stormcast right now, and especially given the recent influx?
Very, 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 very strong. Effectively, like you said, they've got the access to the most war scrolls. They're in Order, which is arguably the strongest faction just because of the amount of war scrolls that are in it that they can find. They are they're fast. They can deploy, which is just utter bullshit, realistically. For deep strike from the sky, which means they've got mobility, which, in my opinion, mobility is the key to winning every game. They've got magic, they've got great anti-magic, they've got fast elite units. They only lack having access to hordes, and even then they've got some fairly competent wounds to save to horde mechanics in like Liberators and the new chaps.
I don't know. I mean,
Sequitors,
yeah.
I would say regarding. Go ahead. Sorry, Rob.
No, go on. So that would be it. They are a jack of all trades and possibly a master of some, potentially. And realistically, depending on what happens with command ability stacking, they're either incredibly good or just really, really good. That's my
Sure. I mean, it's no doubt that like the new refreshed tome adds a lot, right? Because now they have these, they're sort of what do I want to call them?
They're
sub-faction rules. Well, not just that. They're trying to think of the name of it. They're chamber rules. Thank you. The word would not summon to my brain. Yes.
Tactics.
They're storm.
They have their chapter tactics. Yes, there you go. And although they're interesting in opportunity cost, and that they're frequently setting like your command trait and your artifact and at least your primary artifact and stuff like that. Oftentimes there are some strong ones in there for sure. And I agree with you. My guess is we'll see it decided against some of the stacking. So what we'll end up seeing is them being very strong. Like they are the cover, the faction, the symbol of Age of Sigmar. I can't imagine a world where they end up weak. Now,
but then that's not true with Space Marines.
Well, that is true. It's a good point.
So.
Yeah, I can't argue with that logic. But I think they've always had a strong place. I think they still do. I think the new stuff helped a lot. I think Sequitors are solid. I think their little Dracoline Riders or whatever are solid. I'm saying
Sequitors are like curb stompers. Like, I don't know if you like, I've had them on the table and I sent 5 of those into like a unit and they did some work with their reroll all hits. Hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s.
Can't they reroll to hit, reroll to wound, and reroll saves?
Yeah, yes. If they, if you like, depending, we were playing a 1,000-point game, and so it was just a wiener, not good unit of 5 that came in and did some work. Like if you stack those, you have your synergies. Yes, they're gonna do some work in a serious way.
Yeah, I mean, my ultimate argument would be I agree with you. Their only limitation, for the large part, especially given the way that prayers work, is the lack of horde, the lack of bodies, right? And most missions are still number dependent.
Yes, like I hear that, but then at the same time, let me push back. Like they also, because they can bring in any order, like truly any order, including allied or including compendium scrolls right now. Sure. Depending on if the event's allowing them. But because they can bring in any order, they can bring in the best of the best of the best
from anywhere else. Yeah.
Right. So like if they want, they can bring in 30 Volkites at 360 points. If they want, they can bring in 30 White Lions at 300 points. They can bring in 270, or they can bring in 30 Longbeards at 270.
Phoenix Guard are pretty brilliant too.
Phoenix Guard are now, what is it, 30 for 300? No, 30 for 360. Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right. Like all of those things, all of the things they can do.
Sure. I mean, yes, that is correct. But by necessity, those things are going to be weaker than they might be in their other home faction / not getting the benefits of the chapter tactics and whatnot.
Some of them aren't. Yeah, some of them aren't. But they're bodies that are resilient. Again, Phoenix Guard is a great call out, Rob, because 30 bodies at 4+4+ with ward saves that never diminish.
Right.
2-inch reach, 3s and 3s. That's it's fantastic.
Sure. No, I don't disagree. I think that however we define them, they're especially after this change, they are top tier. I think their limitation, you mentioned the airdrop thing, right?
Yeah.
Rob, I do think they still have a mobility challenge. And by that,
what out of your mind.
No, because I'm really not, because either they have the evocators on Drackline, which are fast and will be anywhere they want, anytime they want. Those guys are zip quick and great. Okay, so cool. That's a way to solve it. But then that's the unit they have to take. Or they can do the new lightning chariot, right? Because they have their I don't remember what
the transportation thing.
Yeah, whatever the new translocation modification. Yeah. I don't remember the name of the new one, but yes. Up to let's call it Lightning Chariot 2.0, shall we?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So they can do that, but that's reliant on that prayer getting off and on having that priest.
Or Vexilor.
But they're those foot troops, those sequitors you're talking about, are not fast dudes. If they can't be charioted around, if they can't be moved around, then they're gonna walk around slowly.
Yeah, but so you've got access. So you got access to, like you said, so you can transport them, which is massive. So
it's
they
huge.
can.
Giant deal.
So they can be anywhere they want to be, and so they aren't movement 4. They're wherever they want to be. They can have a bunch of
wherever they need to be.
They can, exactly wherever they need to be. They can run and charge very much. They've got a hero that can give them that. That's not even a command ability to do it.
Right.
They can have wizards that increase how fast they move. They've got bonuses to charges in range. They've got the ability to reroll charges in range. They have more movement than most everyone else, or they have access to everything that, and they've got a hero that gives them fallback and charge, so they have access to every way that you want to make them move over and above their base movement stat. And then that base movement stat doesn't really matter because you can just teleport them.
Sure.
And then you can teleport them high. You can teleport them. You can teleport them near the units they need to be. So, they're just very, 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 very strong. But
I don't disagree with any of that, though. I will say each of those things comes with some opportunity cost because they don't just do it, right? You can solve the challenge. And that's what makes them powerful, is that they have the tools that if you build them into your list, they can solve basically any challenge. But then that means you didn't put in some other tool, or some other tool is lessened or something like that. It's not that that's cost free, right? It's not like they do everything all the time for nothing, is my point.
No. Yeah, and I completely agree. They have the biggest toolbox, but and that can be a bit challenging because then you're like, well, how do I build this? And some people might build lists that are a little bit too fractured in how they work. As an example, when I was building my army for the Legion of Asgore today, I feel like I built 2 armies and I kind of smashed them together.
Right.
And realistically, I probably should pick to polarize it a tad. Depending, but then maybe that's wrong, and I'm still really getting the feel for how the army works. But
it is. I think it's easy for Stormcast to have a sort of identity crisis because you can't have everything you want. You look and go, I can do all this and all this and all this. Well, you can't do all that at once in a 2,000-point army. You have a huge toolbox, but you only got 2 hands to hold those tools. Yeah. Right, that's what it boils down to. Okay, let me pause this for just a moment. I think my wife wants to say something, so I'm going to give her my headset because she apparently wanted to say something on the show. So So here we go. Okay,
this is dangerous.
I need a sandwich. Tense. I'm very tense.
I think he just muted her.
Oh, wow. Also, Tom, who's gonna be the Council of Elder Dwarf for the Fire Slayers? We need someone.
Kenny Lowell, obviously.
Oh my god, obviously. Why am I even asked that question?
Yeah, like the difficulty thing is that Kenny's just so nice. That's the problem.
Mercantile though.
Yeah, indeed. That's a good call.
I'll try and bribe him onto my side.
No, Vince is gone. He's gone!
Yes! We're the kings! Welcome to Warhammer Weekly featuring Rob and Tom. Yeah? This is the new
Rob and Tom.
Alright!
Warhammer Weekly 2.0.
Where we think painting sucks!
Just dry brush it. It's okay. You'll still win tournaments. It kills it just as effectively.
Yes. And then you've got more time to learn and play like a true hero.
Indeed.
All right, let's try this now. Can you hear me normal now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
We can
My headset apparently USB set unplugged and then it didn't go back. All right, here you go. Do your thing.
All right. Okay, I don't want to mess with Vince's headset this time because, you know, he'll get salty or whatever. Anyway, I would like Vince to go get his golden demon that he got in May. So, Vince, would you go get the golden demon that you got in May at Warhammer Fest? Go get it.
Yeah, that's right. Now we get to see if he's wearing trousers.
He is. Yes.
He is. Oh. Sorry, Mickey.
He wears it. He gets up for a uniform every time. So you might have understood that Vince failed to get his stuff in for Golden Demon. He has yet to send it in. It's been 2 months now since he's won this. And whatever, you didn't send it in today, did you? Send it in today or yesterday? Today. He sent it in today. Okay, well, I have a temporary plaque for him. I'll make him read it for you guys. But I wanted this to happen before Tom came up here to visit because I knew that Tom would, you know, really find it like immediately. Where Vince hasn't noticed for like 2 weeks. No. Yeah, no, 2 weeks. So I ordered him a temporary plaque. I'm going to make him do it. And then I am doing, this is by my cameo, I am doing an Ask Me Anything About Vince on Twitter at 9 p.m. on Friday night. While they are in the midst of their marathon games. So check me out on Twitter, 9 p.m. Eastern. Ask me anything about Vince within reason. I mean, I'll tell most everything, but yeah. So ask me anything about Vince, 9 p.m. Twitter. There you go.
Woo!
Oh, apparently Vince says I should also do an Ask Me Anything About Tom, but I don't know as much about Tom, and I feel funny doing that. I don't think that's appropriate. No, maybe if there's like something you absolutely want to know about little Tommy Lyons, we'll talk about it, but it's not like a thing. And yeah, I can't help the little Tommy Lyons. I mean, I've known him since he was like, what, a freshman in high school? Whatever. Anyway, here you go, Vince. Thank you very much.
Great work.
So read what you're...
I saw. Yes, it says Vince Venturella, Some Army Warhammer Fest, May 2018. I mean, realistically, that's probably as good as anything that I'll get officially. So there you go. All right.
What did you win it for, Vince?
Further.
I'm sorry.
No, I love you too, dear.
Was
Very
that
nice.
really? Was that really? Did that make you tense?
No,
you
it's
were
fine.
really worried about me doing this. So
it's fine.
Like, okay.
No, it's fine.
We were on the edge of our seat.
That was for the Necromunda gang at Warhammer Fest. So there you go.
I like Some Army better.
Sure. All right. So back to this. Okay.
Great work.
Thank you. I'll post my wife's Twitter down in the show notes. So that way you can all follow her if you want to participate with her.
Something you've never wanted to say.
Hey, it's fine. I'm okay with it. So
he tolerates it.
You can tell them.
They're not gonna at Weekly Widow. Yes. There you go. I'll post it down below too. Okay. So at any rate, let's get back. We were talking about Stormcast. So the other thing about Stormcast is, are you going to get future stuff? Yes.
Yeah.
That's the answer, right? Like, are you going to get future stuff? Yes, you will. There will be more chambers. There will be more stuff, right? I mean, period.
Yeah. I would say that I feel that there is apart from the hordes, there is a singular negative to Stormcast.
I'm ready.
In the and it's relatable to hordes, in that being a pretty low model count army and a pretty fairly easy to produce army, you tend to see a lot of it. So people don't have that thing where they don't know how to play against it because they've more than likely encountered it more than once. So that is a distinct advantage for the people playing against it and a disadvantage for people who have it. And because it's a more elite army, which generally has always had a good save, so it suffers from mortal wound output, I tend to find that most people are too lazy to put horde armies on the tabletop. So what that means is, number one, buck up your ideas, lads and ladies. But number two, that means that mortal wound output against elite armies is always usually consistently at tournaments and part of the metagame, which means that Stormcast suffer a little bit from that pervasive kind of aura that exists.
No, I think that's an excellent point. It's going to be very hard to catch anybody off guard, right? Like people know what you've got.
Unless you brought Vanguard, not Vanguard Wing, but Vanguard.
You're all Paladors and Hunters. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
Most people are going to know what you do.
Right on.
I've read that, and I still don't know how the into the Aether thing really works. If someone just said to me, "These guys are just going over here now," I'd be like, "That's fine. You keep going. Whatever you want to do."
So I think our final summation on Stormcast would be overall place in the meta. You know, would we all say strong near the top? Is that a fair, whatever that breaks down to, or however you want to define it?
In the system that we use,
yeah,
in the system that we use in the Honest Wargamer, we tend to use a system based like S would be. So we win. How many games could you win at a 5-game tournament? Is our system. And I would say Stormcast, you more than likely could win a 5-game. You could win 5 games at a 5-game tournament with Stormcast. Is my system.
That's an accurate.
I like that. Yeah, sure. Yes, I agree. Okay, cool. I like that system. All right. So that's our big golden boys. Okay. We're gonna rotate through. I'm not gonna do like all order than all anything. Yep. Next up on the list, what's that?
No, but
okay. So next up on the list, I want to turn to something you mentioned earlier, Rob. Let's talk about the Legions of Nagash. Okay, so Death obviously at this point in time basically has 2 factions, right? The Legions and now Nighthaunt. I thought we'd tackle the Legions first. So Rob, why don't you give us your hot take first? You mentioned just playing them earlier today. So what do you think right now about LON?
So I think like 4 out of 5 is pretty comfortable for a Legions and a Nagash army, and there's loads of different ways you can do it. You could put a lot of hordes down that you regenerate. That's pretty solid. You could probably go for, I mean, Nagash is obviously great, and I think what a lot of people are thinking with Nagash is do something like endless spells returned through spell pool. I think Nagash's true power is that he can cast so many spells, and you basically can play like a blue control deck with Nagash in shutting down your opponent. Ability to, obviously with the Legion of Nagash spell lore, it's got lots of half movement and -1 attack and -1 to hit, and then if you throw Geminids and Shackles on top of that, you can basically shut down an opposing army with skeletons as you kind of like troops. I think is a pretty solid effective build, but I think they've got access to great units that you have to have the ability to fully kill units off, or they can summon them back. I think that's really important. And then also talking about Nighthaunt, I think probably wounds on the board. Nighthaunt as a horde army, probably it reminds me a lot of demons in 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, where they just have that constant 5-up ward save or that constant 4-up ward save, and then they're then healing them units back. So you need to be able to fully nuke units with the potential of them coming back. So you need a high damage output army that can deal with hordes to beat them. So yeah, I think 4 out of 5. I think they've got loads of tools.
Yeah, they're interesting because they do have basically 2 of the better casters in the game, right? In Nagash and Archon. And they're primed to take advantage of all the most gross stuff with endless spells, right?
But if you rely on that said, if you rely on that, you're going to get shut down by a Dispel Scroll turn 1.
Sure, because what's going to happen
you're going to bump into it.
Dispel the portal, and then it's like, okay, Go ahead, cast whatever you want at your nothing in range. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not a strategy I'd rely on as a all-in skew strategy. My point is simply, in the broadest sense, they have some of the most ability to capitalize on those things. It's very easy when trying, like, I think people just automatically assume the endless spells will happen or whatever. You know, like, oh, I'll just portal off. If you're not packing a significant bonus to cast, it is real easy to fail that thing a lot more than you cast it, right?
Well, not only that, like, the meta will respond, period.
Sure.
Everyone in order has access to a Dispel Scroll.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yep.
And so, like, that single Knight Incantor is going to be hanging out in a lot of armies just because he shuts down the spell alpha.
Yep. Sure.
I think what you'll see is that's why I said 4 to 5 is there'll be gatekeepers, because you'll have the people who have the capacity to deal with other things and also then deal with magic, which is going to be a big deal. But can you fit every tool that you need into a single army? You know, can you deal with the horde that they bring with them, or the elite monsters that they possibly bring with them? And obviously you look at Nagash, and then I think really there's definitely a massive horde-winning army in Nighthorn.
Yes.
And then also in just Legions of Nagash with the Skeleton Warriors. So it's whether or not anyone can be bothered to put it on the tabletop, I think is the answer.
I think
it's a fast paint. I mean, it may be the fastest paint horde army in history, right? Like, that's an airbrush weekend. So
I think that's so true. I think that I think Nighthorn is going to surprise people, because I think that they can have both surgical, like, alpha capability while at the same time maintaining horde in a very real way. And so some people I've let this slip, like, we'll do our Nighthaunt show here in probably a couple weeks. But like, the Banshees are like mini Endrin Riggers, and if you think otherwise, you're out of your mind. Like, their damage potential, like a unit of 12 at 210 points, is fairly insane. Everybody looks at them for their unbinds, but they can be buffed up and they can deep strike with all of their buffs, and then get a pretty easy charge if you have a cogs on the table. So, like, it's a thing. Alpha striking Banshees is going to be a thing.
So what's the death weakness? Like, let's split this apart. Let's say Legions of Nagash and then Nighthaunt. What's their weaknesses? What are they lacking? I agree. Range, yeah. Anything else?
I think realistically, not many. But I think probably the trick is to not fall into the trap of wanting to use all of the magic that they have access to. Right, and then taking units that, if you looked at them in any other army, you'd go, that's really great, and then, you know, like, and just running them like that. But then I feel people are like, oh, I'll take a +1 to cast and I'll do another little bit of this, and there's probably too much there. But that said, they'll dominate the two scenarios that require a character with a wizard or an artifact.
Sure.
Where some armies massively struggle, so they've got that advantage.
Yeah. So let me ask this question: do their grave sites pose a double-edged sword to them for advantage disadvantage? And what I mean by that is, in scenarios with sort of static points where you know where they're going to be, they pose a huge advantage because you can have your grave sites near those things where you're able, right? And then know that you can either regen or whatever near them. But in some of the scenarios where you have very mobile, value targets, right? Like where your objective is shooting around the board in something like the relocation orb or whatever. Does that pose more of a challenge where they might need to suddenly be very far away from wherever their grave sites are and respawn the unit or not? It doesn't matter. It's not going to get anywhere to participate in this fight.
Well, I think so. If you take objectives where you have to split your army out quite a lot, where objectives where there are 6, or you have to be generally quite far, you can use the grave sites to bully people. So, like most people, I think it's an army that people just haven't played enough yet, is my feeling, looking at it. The game I played today, I looked at Simon, and if he'd just taken one of his 4 grave sites and had put that to the other side of the board, You know, I'm there constantly like, maybe something's going to pop out of there. That could be an issue for me. You know, I've got to put a little 5-man unit there or a 10-man unit there, but they're busy holding that little objective there or that little objective there. Yeah. And ultimately, most people don't run a lot of MSU. Like they have a lot of units, but usually big blocks of something here and there. So I think, and if they're sat on an objective, they're not shooting or fighting usually, or if they're stopping your gravesite doing something useful for you. So I think they probably are a tactic that people still need to learn to use, I'd say.
You think people tend to go all in now, basically clump the 4 sites to some degree to sort of maximize healing and zone control?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which makes sense. But you know, sure. Do you need them all the time? That's a big question.
Right. Although I'll say that, like, you know, if you've got one somewhere, it does also become much more possible to zone them off of, you know, accessing that one, right? Without,
but they have to do something to do that.
It's true,
right?
That's true.
Which is you're now forcing your opponent to have to do something, and people hate having to do something they don't want to do.
No, it's a good point. You're making anytime you're deciding your opponent's plays for them, it's generally that's a power move, right? Yes. No, I agree. Okay, cool. Any other items we want to touch on with either the Night Haunt or the Legions of Nagash? And the reason we've compiled both of them together is because they're very interrelated, right? There is a third death faction we'll touch on a little later, in the Ghoulie Ghouls, but they're very separate from all of this. So
yeah, I'm starting to wonder if there might be gas in the engine of a Legions of Nagash that's Night Haunt heavy.
Okay.
And I think we'll potentially see that.
You're saying because there's a large number of like summonable items within the Night Haunt group themselves, so when you shift them over to that.
Yeah, and the synergies that sit on the characters still persist.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is like you could do Lady Alindra and her spell on Nagash or things like that. Things that suddenly they were like weak casters. Suddenly that pops off and becomes something that's significant. I'm thinking about like the not Spirit of Torment. Spirit of Torment, like his synergy is a passive synergy just nearby. I'm thinking about like the one guy with the lantern. The one guy with the lantern.
It sounds like there is a ghost on the podcast on the show right now.
Piss off, ghost.
Yeah.
Take your vibrating thing off the table, Tom.
Shut up. That's my wife calling me, so I'm kind of curious where my kids are now.
Sure.
But
I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah. Anyways, what was I saying? Ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, like there's the D6 return model spell.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of tools that are out there that suddenly I think become really interesting in the hands of Nagash or Arkham.
Okay. Cool. All right. Overall place in the meta. You gave your 4 out of 5. So you think that's Tom? What do you like about that? I think they have very high potential. Like they're strong, very competitive.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Universally agreed. Okay.
Universally agreed.
All right. Let's move to some chaos. All right. So we're just going to rotate through the alliances. That seems like a fun way to do this. Let's talk about some chaos. And if we're going to start with chaos, let's start with the changer of the ways, shall we? So let's start with Big Papa Tzeentch, the Birdman himself, RV Birdman, attorney at change. What? Like, Tzeentch has obviously changed a lot in what they put on the table from, hey, guess what? When you follow a god whose thing has changed, what'd you think was going to happen, guys? Slight aside, there was a great comic called Vexed. Look it up, the EXT. It's a wonderful comic series. And at a point in the point of the comic, it's about little minor gods who lose their worshippers. There's a little minor god who was the god of minor apocalypses and unexpected cataclysm, and he lost all his worshippers in a volcanic eruption. And one of the other gods said he really should have seen that coming. So, at any rate, I say all that long joke to say that you really should have seen this coming if you worship the god of change. Anyways, Rob, kick us off. What do you think about Tzeentch right now?
Well, to quote one of your political luminaries, womp womp is and to follow up, thanks, appreciate that. I would say that they have got a load of bonuses, which Tzeentch players won't automatically see, because obviously, much like when you have to insert a plug into a socket, if you have to do something like also then additionally press the button on, and then like a bunch of other things which aren't just I've won the game. I feel they are going to face some challenges, but that's good because they've had a while where they haven't had to play. So now they're going to have to play games. So fuck them.
Fair. That's a fair point.
Touche.
Entered into evidence. No, I agree. Like sorry, Tzeentch players, but you needed it. Like they needed kicked in the teeth. Like they weren't playing fair games before. I'm sorry, but like not every Tzeentch player and not every Tzeentch build, but there were especially a couple lists that were just filthy as all get out. Right? It's not that they couldn't be beaten, but that shouldn't be the standard. Right? 100% win rate shouldn't be what's required for a list to be bent. Right?
No, I think it was like a 97-7 or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Only KO could contest it.
I got to say that I think there is a load of great stuff in there that people maybe are just missing. But there's some amazing stuff. Really strong.
So, Tom, do you want to take some swings at this? Because you've obviously actually been kind of excited about Tzeentch since the rollover, right? Because I think you believe they're in either as good of or as strong a position in different ways now.
Yeah, I mean, like summoning is a big deal. Like we all do that. And the fact is that a lot of what's going on in this new world is magic based, right?
Yeah, theoretically.
And everybody's summoning now is going to feed their mechanic. And they are going to be the best. They are going to be the best spellcasters in the game because they have their dice. They have Destiny dice they can still play with. They have birds that duplicate dice, which is just ridiculous. And they have like a generic +1 cast and a lot of tools. They have casters that have now a 30-inch or 42-inch unbind. Is that what the curseling becomes with the 42 unbind, which he can flip a spell back on a target, and you can unbind that with your Tzeentch dice, so you can guarantee it and automatically recast a spell. Right now, technically, rules as written, you should be able to steal endless spells. So you should be able to bring all your models, because even if you didn't pay for them, you're going to steal other people's, and everybody's going to have them. Everybody's going to have them. So I made a list with 12 spells per round first turn that just only went up from that. And it was pretty egregious. And so, but I think it ends up being a lot more of an MSU army than an actual what we've seen, which was a horror army.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the list that you and I have discussed, I think this army plays in a completely different way. Not necessarily an automatically broken way or something like that. It just literally has a completely different path to victory than the normal way armies would play, right?
Yeah.
Overall, I still rate Tzeentch quite high. If we're to use Rob's scale, I'd still say they're easily pushing between 4.5, let's say, somewhere up there.
I would say a 4 game. I wouldn't say more than a 4 game. I don't
know, man. I'm
4 to 5 is the scale. There's 5, 4 to 5, and 4.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying right in that area, 4 to 5. Yes, that's where I'm putting them.
Yeah.
Rob, what's your final counting of them?
Well, for me personally, I actually think that they've got some incredible units, which other armies would be jealous to have, and that there's probably the thing about the stacking spells and that other stuff, and I really like armies that sometimes polarize because they create great games and are super interesting, but they also, much like KO in the last edition, sometimes create kind of I win or I lose sort of gaming play styles. And that, I feel, is a bit of an issue with lists like that. But again, I haven't seen the list, so maybe I'm 100% wrong. But I got to say that I think that Tzeentch would be an army that I would play at the minute, because it would play in what I would consider to be an incredibly fair and fun way. You could have 2 blocks of 30 Zangor, and you're laughing. those things are amazing. That's 60 wounds on the board. You know, they can move like the clappers. They're brilliant. And then you've got a Lord of Change, or you've got the Curseling to back them up. So you've got great magic. You've got a monster, you know, and you've still got loads of toys. And then in Zangor Enlightened, like, why is no one talking about those? You know, the reason they're not talking about them is because using Skyfires was so easy. Like, I've talked about this a couple of times with a couple of Tzeentch players and some of my friends, and they say, you know, I say, Enlightened are 160 points, yeah? And they do the same amount of damage that Skyfires would do in combat. You just have to go second. To which they all retort, but you've got to use them. But that's fine, because you've got Zangor blocks that can take a punch, and you've got Hammer and Anvil. You've got arguably, as long as it goes second, one of the best hammers in the game coming from Enlightened, not including just buffs that if they just take their War Scroll, just their War Scroll, unbelievable if they go second in big blocks, and they're cheap for what they are. And then Zangors to take the hammer. You're having a great time. You've got Lords of Change. You've got fast mobile units. Even if you don't take like a big block of Zangor, right, and you'd use them to just go clear objectives and hold objectives for you. I think they're in a really solid place, and I would love that. That build for me is just a lovely looking fantasy army. Big Lord of Change, 2 blocks of 60 Zangor, or 2 big blocks of 30 Zangor, and then insert what you like. You know, Tzeentch Knights, all sorts of stuff. A Chaos Warshrine with a block of 30 Chaos Warriors is horrific, like, to shift off an objective.
Oh, I've been a fan of that for a while. Those guys are just so hard to move. Like those 60 wounds with like save after rerolling save after mortal wound save, they don't die, right?
Yeah, you know? and that's like, and for me, and I know obviously, you know, that's me bringing my personal opinion to bear on what a fantasy game should look like, but that looks like a big, you know, sword and board fantasy army rocking it that looks twisted and malign in all those ways that you would want a Chaos Force to look. And I think they've got, and I'd play that army. That sounds like a barrel of laughs, personally.
Yeah,
that's what all
I've been trying to make a Zangor army work. Because I agree, it's something that looks fun. And
well, there's also MSU potential with Zangor too, right? Like, it doesn't have to be only the big blocks of 30. You could have one big block and then MSU 30 that are doing different things. Like, even 10 Zangor can do a lot of work, right?
Well, have we talked about the banners?
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Yes, because then everybody's running around with one of those banners, and those things are amazing.
Especially a spell-heavy game.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's even better when you're. I'll do it. Oh well. It's even better that the Zangor Shaman, you know, his little spell, like, he zaps to refresh units nearby.
Yeah.
His the default spell where he cracks somebody and he can make a new Zangor.
Yeah, he make a new Zangor. Like, what he does is he dumps those into a nearby unit. If there's not a nearby unit, he makes a new unit, and you can choose what's in that new unit. So you can create a standard bearer every turn.
That's great. That's great.
Flag bearer, flag bearer, flag bearer, flag bearer, flag bearer. More flag bearers with MSU flag bearers with 12 wizards sitting around them. So you're rolling like 80 dice to test for mortal wounds. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's, by the way, those are glimpses at that list, Rob.
Good.
Yeah.
It's bent. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to make Zangor work, and I think that I agree with you that there is a fun list in there somewhere.
Yeah, and so I think Tzeentch have got a 5-game list in them, easy peasy, because they can guarantee stuff, and no matter how many times we talk about it, Destiny dice, the fact that you can guarantee you're going to stop a thing with an unbind, or you're going to do a thing with a charge or a cast, and you don't have to worry. That means that you're playing a no risk and full reward game, and that's obviously that's such a powerful place to play from.
Agreed. By the way, if people want to see the power of Enlightened on display in a very simple example, Doom and Darkness put a video on his channel recently where he was playing Death, and Nagash swept in his lines, and he had like 6 Enlightened. You mentioned like Enlightened, and those 6 Enlightened went second and beat the living tar out of Nagash in like a single round, right?
And that's 320 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was a little damaged before he went in there. He wasn't clean, but he wasn't on death's door either, right? Like they went in there and did some hard work on him. I agree with you. Enlightened are a thing that, like, because they were so made fun of at the beginning, people just are carrying that bias. Yeah. Okay. No, I completely agree. All right. So I think I totally agree on the spot on Tzeentch. They still have one of the best allegiance abilities of the game, because the problem with this game is it's a dice game, and the allegiance ability of Nagash says no, it's not. Right? Like, that's bottom line.
Tzeentch.
Yes.
You're saying this have Tzeentch.
Yes.
Yeah, they changed the game. They rewrite the rules.
Yes, they play by their own rules. I think one of the weaknesses of the army is, honestly, it's a very difficult army to play right. Like, that sounds like a funny statement, but it has got so many individual choice points, memory points, different activations, synergies, chained interactions, that, like, it's real easy to screw it up if you're not, like, at the top of your game every choice. So
I think that's also true in army list building, because as much as you know, I know you've got access to so many wizards, but you look at it and you think, yeah, D6 mortal wounds. You're like, is that actually as important as those reroll ones to hit or whatever it might be?
Right.
You know, because they do have some big guns, but some people take too many of the big guns off the wall and don't have those little added bonuses, which actually would end up winning them games more consistently, probably.
Yep. Well, or they can take Geminids, which they get both. They get 2d3 mortal wounds and the debuff.
All right. Still not the best in the spell.
It might be the best, like, sort of predatory damaging one. But yeah, it's not the best endless spell. That's crazy.
Oh, of course not.
Okay.
No, Cogs is.
That's Cogs.
It's Shackles.
You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Shackles is a great spell. Shackles might as well read. It has a bunch of text, and then it should just at the end say,
-1
alternatively,
spell per turn.
ignore all of this text and subtract 1 spell from what your opponent casts next turn. Like, because that's what Shackles reads, which is great. Like, that's 20 points well spent. But, you know, I'm just saying. That's what it actually reads.
It's just everybody gets to cast 1 less spell per turn. You're going to cast it every turn, and they're going to unbind it every turn.
Right.
And it's never actually going to do anything except be unbound.
Right.
Oh, it can do D3 mortal wounds in your movement phase.
Yeah, sure, I guess. Honest, okay. If you successfully cast it every round for 5 games, you would get an average of 2d3 mortal wounds in a 5-turn game. So look out for that powerhouse on a random unit that happens to be on their front line. I'm just saying. That's the math.
Okay, we'll see.
We will. As always, I'm happy to be proven wrong.
Same.
I usually am. All right, so let's go. Now it's time for destruction. And if we're going to talk destruction, admittedly, an allegiance in a rough place right now. Because
what?
Overall.
Overall. Okay.
Overall, in a rough place overall. Because they haven't had their big cycle of releases yet, right? All the other allegiances have had some big cycle of releases focusing on them, and destruction hasn't. Their year is coming, 2019, but we'll wait. But for now, we're going to start with Ironjawz, because Ironjawz is the best. Because orcs are the best, and Ironjawz is the best orcs. So by the transitive property of orcs, Ironjawz is the best. So Ironjawz. Yeah, I'll wait. I have a lot of opinions about Ironjawz. Rob.
Let's hear them.
Okay. I want to let other people go first. I don't want to steal people's thunder. Rob, do you have any thoughts on Ironjawz?
I play Ironjawz quite a bit. Nathan loves Ironjawz. Nathan. Yes, they need shooting. Really, I think Khorne is fantastic, which is a really strong build. There's definitely something to be said about stacking. I think Ardboys. Same thing as I felt about Zangor, in the same boat. And I don't know why, and maybe you guys could disagree with me, I don't know why no one's experimented with having quite a few weird boys, especially now. I mean, I guess it's because there's been no other spells, right? But I guess now there's quite a lot of spells, and their pluses to cast make them pretty prodigious wizards. You know, and also the War Chanter on a mega boss who's rocking one of the really offensive, you know, like the Chopper of Judgment, for example, from the Realm of Shadow. Those pluses to hit are quite hard to come by for other armies, but you know, a war boss is like, I've got +2 to hit, and every 4 of these 7 attacks is going to do D6 mortal wounds to you, Archeon. You're dead now. But I'd say they're in a good place, but they're not in an amazing place because they just lack some basic utility that other armies have.
Yep.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, so and I think those are all right thoughts. I would agree to use to all of those. So I'll start at the tip of the spear. They're a 4. They're a solid 4 when played right. Here's the strengths. Let me list them out. One of the best cheap chaff fast units in the game, Pigs. Pigs got even better now because they move their speed on the Ironjawz movement. Fantastic. They have an unbelievably destructive leader in the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, right? Just a killing machine, okay? Who, as you pointed out, can be buffed in incredible ways. They have a fantastic allegiance ability that turns the whole army up, that can get turned up. They easily can... They're a 1-drop, like, without trying, right? Like, it is an army that goes to 1-drop unless you really are trying to do something different. Because they have 2 different Mega Battalions that make them 1-drop, both of which are good, by the way. Both Iron Suns and Bloodtooths are good for different reasons. They can be fast in a weird way. Like, even though their base move is utter garbage. Between, like, Iron Fist movement and Ironjawz Allegiance movement and everything else, they can actually get around the board pretty quick. They do the right damage. They make tons of attacks. They answer most other things pretty well. The problem is they don't have any depth. They have no bench. Right? If we were talking about this like a sports team, they have no bench. It's like, that's it. You've got like 7 units in the army. They have basically that trick, right? Very limited flight. Like, if things get in the way and chaff them up, they don't go anywhere, right? It's hard for them to get over top. So it's easy to pin them if they don't get on top of you first. They don't, like, mortal wounds will pick them up real fast, and they have limited bodies. Now, Ardboys are better now that they're cheaper. That's a great move, and that gave you the bodies problem. That solved a lot of it by moving that down some. By the way, I think the reason you didn't see all the weird knobs before was just because Ardboys were too expensive, right? And they were your only real way to power weird knobs. Yeah. That's not true. Okay.
No, you could do hordes of greenskins. Yeah. Okay. And for 200 points, you could get an entire.
You don't want to dilute. You do not want to dilute your Ironjawz, in my experience, with any other thing. Like, I know there's a couple exceptions. The problem with bringing in those other things is this: that allegiance ability is so critical to the army's success. Okay, or sorry, your command ability. I apologize, not your allegiance, but your command ability. Okay, that command ability firing off not only once, but now the potential of once or twice, taking the whole army up 2 to 3 attacks every round, is so critical. Like, a unit of brutes on its base stats doesn't do much. Okay, but a unit of brutes, when the champion gets turned up to having like 4 attacks with his claw and 3 with his smasher, will single-handedly dismantle a unit, right? By auto-hitting with the claw, and then by hitting with the claw once, and then auto-hitting with every smasher attack at a high rend and high damage. Like, he will simply shred a unit to bits by himself, okay? And the difference between him being at like 2 and 1 or 1 and 1 or whatever, and like 4 and 3 or whatever is massive. Like, the performance difference is insane of a unit of brutes when they get their bonus. And that bonus is entirely dependent on the number of Ironjawz units you have. And the second you fall below 6, within a pretty tight radius of your Mega Boss, the army has the potential to just shut off and do nothing. Right? That's the challenge. Yeah. You have to stay at critical mass. And there has to be a constant 6. So you always have the potential to do the big wall. That's it. You go below 6, and every other unit dilutes that, right? So, not even the fact that they push your drops up and stuff like that, which is not that big a deal. When you're 1 going to 2, you're still going to beat most people in the meta. So I think they, in my opinion, with the right build, they are a solid 4, despite their limitations. But it's almost impossible for them to be a 5. There are just hard counters that will stop them dead. Right.
I think one of the ones that you talked about there that's most interesting, and something that I think I'm thinking about more and more and more, is chaff and screens and board control.
Yep.
Now traditionally, like not 100%, but you would obviously like a big block of 30 of something. You're like, oh, it's got, those Tzeentch warriors as an example. Realistically, that's a great chaff screen because it's just a hardy unit. But Ironjawz' particular weakness, as you pointed out, is they have to hit the thing that's in front of them. And if you can summon free stuff in front of them that you don't care about dying, or you can give them something to eat, knowing you can bring it back later, I think that's what detracts from their potency, realistically.
Yep.
And they have to punch through the thing that they need to punch through. So going first, massively important. Being able to charge forward into the opponent's lines, massively important to punch through those lines. But that's the issue. Can they punch through all of the chaff that some people are going to be able to put up? That's the big weakness. And I think chaff screens are going to be even more important because they're going to be like 8 dryads, like just knocking around from a spell, or they're going to be a free unit of skinks here and a free unit of skinks there. That's going to be their big downfall. Is previously people had to feed you their 10 skinks as battle line units, but now they don't have to feed you that. They feed you their free 10-man unit that they just got that last turn, or 2 units of them. And that's the challenge, right?
I completely agree. It is the huge weakness because, yes, you've got decent mobility. Like, there are multiple builds that I've put together where reasonably I have my entire army on their line, like charging them on a completely nominal roll at the top of one, right? That's not hard to do with Ironjawz in an Iron Fist, sort of Iron Suns kind of all-in build. Maybe it takes cogs, maybe it doesn't. Like, you can get there. Right? When you've got Ard boys who are just charging, like who are getting +5 to charge when cogs are up, right? And moving all this distance across the board. When you've got your Mega Boss taking a free 12-inch move before his 12-inch move. Well, 12 plus 12 is 24, folks. When you've got a bunch of the new scenarios only being 18 inches apart, right? Like, all of these things say I can get at you top of 1 if I want. But again, you're right. Like, with chaff, there's just not enough rounds in the game to punch through everything, right? Like, sure, I can smash in a bastion and probably lose little and blow your chaff walls down, yo ho, but unless I double turn, you're just gonna reset. You're just gonna put other crap in front of me, and then I'm gonna have to spend. And by the time, I'm just gonna run out of turns, right? And that's the challenge.
Sounds like a fun game.
I mean, hey, the Ironjawz player is still happy. I spent my entire game killing my enemy. I'm not sure I'm sad about it, to be completely honest. But nonetheless, I think it's a huge limiting factor for them. And the problem is right now, as I said, like, they don't have the depth of bench to build different armies that do different things. They do that one thing. They do it real well. They're like a super big rock. They're the biggest rock, but they can only bring rock, right? Like, that's it. They show up with rock every time. And like, if somebody shows up with a piece of paper, you're like, well, I guess I lose this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you 5-game with them. I really don't, like, in a tourney. I just don't see it. You'd have to have like the weirdest schedule ever.
I think Ard boys could potentially be the future. I mean, so what does a unit of 30 Ard boys run you now? Is it
480, right?
No, 420.
It's
450, right?
It's quite cheap.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's 450. Sounds right.
I can't believe I have to look this up. That's probably because I don't have 30 Ard boys painted, because that takes a long time, and I hate painting 30 of anything. 450. I'm right. Okay, cool.
Okay. So, but yeah, for 900 points, you could be rocking down. It's 120 rooms, right?
Oh, sure. With potential for, like, you're going to give some of them shields, so they've got the extra 6 up and all that kind of garbage, right? Sure.
That's not bad. Like, a lot of armies would be jealous of that unit, I think, especially with the 4-up save, and reactive battle shocks. So you can decide when you want to do that and when you don't. And I agree with you. I think probably it would be a challenge to ever do 5, but I think that might be a path to victory. Like, unfortunately, just because that's brilliant. 450 points for 60 wounds with a 4-up save is really, really, really good. So,
yeah, it is. Well, then you've also got the potential of weird sort of perpendicular lists like Ard Fist, where you can just afford to throw away those 60 Ard boys and then summon them all back on the board, right?
Exactly.
So like there are some real dark horses in the Ironjawz as well. and they have unbelievable alpha potential. Like, it is one of the hardest hitting alphas when you can wall off and have, because you're going to start with, like I said, you can easily start with 3 command points, saving nothing. Like, I'm not burning any 50 points on extra command points, right? This is just how I start the game. And when I can start the game and easily have between +3 and 6 attacks to my whole army,
and your whole front line can get to their entire starting zone.
Yeah. Like, they necessitate chaff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, otherwise they can clear you off top of 1. Like, that is a very potential world. Yeah. There you go. They are a really big rock. Take that. Don't be a pair of scissors when the big rock comes around. Okay. Let's swing it around. Let's go back to order. Okay? Let's go back to order. Let's talk about some lizards. Or as I like to call them by their proper name. Not Seraphon, not lizardmen. Let's talk about Slann. The original name for them in 2nd and 3rd edition. Let's talk about Slann. Okay?
Let's talk about Slann, baby. Let's talk about lizard and me. Let's talk about all the stars and constellations that can be.
That was amazing. That track needs to drop. I want to hear Rob sings the Warhammer hits. I'll buy the album. It's on iTunes next week. I'm looking forward to it. All right.
No problem.
So yes, let's talk about the Seraphon, obviously. So who wants to start us off with Seraphon? Strengths, weaknesses, where we think they're at.
Go for it, Tom.
Yeah, I think that they sit in a place where they have a lot of the strengths that we need. Like in the new meta, like the new meta plays to their strengths.
Sure.
Spellcasting, summoning.
Sure.
Teleportation. Yep. Teleportation, bodies. They don't have a lot of Nutcracker units. Like maybe some like
especially if you assume Rippers. Well, especially if you assume Rippers get FAQ'd, right? Yes.
Yeah, and they do. Like that's gonna happen.
Yep.
And so they have a lot of the tools is the answer. They have multicasting. They don't have a lot of bonuses to casting. So I think that they will suffer from like high casting value stuff.
You're saying going up against like Tzeentch or going up against Nagash?
Yeah, like Nagash. Yeah, like so those will be surprising. Like against a lot of armies they'll do fine, but against a handful that have high bonuses, they're going to struggle. For this Seraphon discussion, let's assume that the Engine of the Gods gets broken in some way, and that Ripper Dipper Doos get fixed back to how they were working. Okay. Because otherwise that's going to S tier them off in a weird way. All right. And obviously those things are highly susceptible to change. All right. I agree with that. Yep.
Which, by the way, if you don't call them Ripper Dipper Doos, you're doing it wrong. Let me just state that.
Ripper Dipper Doos.
Ripper Dipper Doos. Continue, Tom.
No, I just think they'll be solid. I think they'll be a 4.5 game. Easy. 4 to 5 game. Yeah. Probably 5 game, but I'm hoping that that some degree of balance exists out there for them.
Sure. They have some of the easiest access to some of the core tools of the new thing. Like, that is to say, powerful multicasting, summoning, and teleportation are all things that they basically just flat put on the table every game without any kind of stretching to build. Sure. And bodies.
Because skinks. They have some of the best chaff in the game.
Yeah. Auto-retreating skinks in the middle of combat. Yes. It's pretty decent. It ain't bad.
And being able to resummon those.
Yep.
Being able to resummon those with very little work.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Rob, what about you? What are your thoughts right now? What do you have to add to the Seraphon discussion?
5 games all the time. And it's absolutely, Tom hit the nail on the head with my feelings about them. In that they don't have a hammer. They do not have something that you can point at and go, if I stack everything onto that unit, it will delete the earth. Right. Yeah, they don't have that, right?
Right.
But they don't need that because they're the perfect. They have a perfect tool set of fire and retreat, fire and fade, engage and disengage in such a multitude of ways. And like you said, they can afford to lose stuff. Unlike the Ironjawz, because they can summon those units back to do that job, and they've got access to like incredibly cheap units that have never been affected, which are just baller. So salamanders and razordons are incredible.
Yep.
They haven't been touched. Like they haven't been touched in points, so you can still put tons of them on the board, which is just phenomenal. They've got access to the spellcaster, so they work best. So in my opinion, and this is obviously mine, also everyone who cares about Seraphon, all hail the Blowtoad. They work best by building a castle. They build best by building a chaff wall and a bunker around which your slan sits, and that works perfectly because they don't care about the fact that they can fly. Although the slan's command ability, allowing units around him to fly in a bubble, is incredible, because then you can catch so many people out by having a chaff wall of skinks and popping a unit over them in your charge in your zone, which no one ever sees. But being able to teleport those units to where you need them to be is massive as well. And they work so well with the lens of refraction as an artifact, because they're building a bunker and then they can teleport out. So they all of their artifacts stack great. Do they care about some of those items that do they care about the fact you can do spells? Yeah, maybe they can shut you down. They don't have many bonuses to do that, but they can just ignore your spells.
Right.
You know, that can be
it should be noted. It should be noted they also have great they have a large number of battalions and a couple mega battalions. Now, whether or not those are good, we can have a separate discussion about that. But there are plenty of armies that don't have that access, and battalioning is critical to multi-artifacting, right? So,
exactly, 100%, and so they've got access to so many good tools. They just don't have access to a hammer, so you just don't try to play them like a hammer army. And once you know that, once you go, okay, that's not what I'm doing, I think that's when people are going to start winning games. Like that for me. That's how they seem to be, and that's how I would work them, and that's how I've run them previously. When I was at the last heat, I took an 11-drop Seraphon army, and it was fine. Like it was great. Like it's just smash face all day long because people. And now I really think the Kroxigor probably are outclassed. They didn't get a points reduction, and they probably won't serve the purpose that they need to serve. But that's fine. I'll just get more Razordons and Salamanders and more Skinks and another Bastiladon. And then I'm going to summon more Skinks. So now you're never, ever going to touch the bunker that I don't want you to touch.
Right.
And I've got a range of tools to stop that. Do I want it so you can't shoot me? I'm going to put palisades up. That's fine. Do I want it so that you don't do magic against me? I'm going to have lens of refraction. That's fine. So I can build a castle now that you can never touch with magic or shooting. Cool. Let's move on from there, because that's pretty powerful, and then I can just drop 4 salamanders 9 inches away from you, summon a unit of skink handlers, and then just shoot you shoot that thing that you care about to death, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got a huge amount of the army weakening or ignoring rend, right? You've got so they're taking a tool away, like they're less impacted by Mystic Shield changing because they're also knocking down rend always. Like, I think this is, I agree with you completely. It's a solid 5. Like, I think Seraphon, Lizardmen, or Slan, whatever you want to call them, are super, super great and have maintained an unbelievable depth of options, right? Because they were so big. They have so many different choices in how they're constructed.
Yeah, but lots of their options are not great, though, truth be told.
That's, but fair. Like, nobody's putting, like, I'm not going to start arguing for Saurus Knights. Okay. I mean, obviously. But at the same time, you've got your Slan and your Ashless Bearer and your various skink dudes, all of whom have a purpose. You've got regular skink. You've got your Bastiladons. You've got your engines. You got your Salamanders and Razordons. Like, there's a fair list here of quality stuff that has a defined role it's pretty good at.
Yeah,
right.
They just do lack that punch.
Yes,
I agree. That's their issue. They're like it's death by 1,000 cuts as an army, as opposed to I'm going to rip out your heart, and that's kind of where they fall down.
Which they do, like that type of army actually does well against big chaff armies as well. So like if they have a death by 1,000 cuts, that's good. It's good because they'll be able to take out chaff quickly because they will have the mobile damage to be able to allocate. It's actually the big Death Stars, the big rip your heart out armies that I think are going to struggle the most with chaff armies.
Sure.
Summoning chaff armies, because what's going to happen is that they're going to just bump into a bunch of little roadblocks and never actually be able to get at anything they want to get at.
Yeah, sure. You got the biggest fist in the world. You can still only punch one guy at a time. Right. Yes.
And can I quickly mention one little idea that I had that I thought was cool?
Go for it, man. Go for it.
Dreadsaurian, love the model. Got to. It's rubbish. Definitely true. For its points, really upsetting, really sad. Don't know why they'd make a unit that Forge World would make a unit that they sell, but a unit they don't sell. That would be Chaos War Mammoth. Good. It's insanity, isn't it, really? But it's got an ability, which I think you might overlook, that a Dreadsaurian makes all skink units within 24 inches immune to Battle Shock.
Battle Shock. Yeah.
Right now, think about just streams of summoned skinks and chaff walls, and then now they're all immune to Battle Shock, and they're running away.
You have to
be able to hit them.
Every single one.
Yeah, you have to be able to hit them and kill them and wipe them out. Otherwise, it's like, those two will run away. Now, it's a bit expensive, but I love the idea of a Dreadsaurian just being in the middle of 100 skinks by turn 2. 200 skinks by turn 3, and you're just surrounded. You're like, I'm just going to fire these 900 Bonesplitterz or these, whatever it might be. I don't think it would win 5 games, but I think it would be an amazing army for someone to play.
All right, in the essence of time, let's keep moving. I agree. Let's talk about Flesh Eater Courts, our other death faction. So obviously they got a big change because of the way that their ghouly ghouls and resummoning and courtiers and all this crap works. Who wants to tackle this one? It's not me. Who's tackling Flesh Eater Courts?
They're like a 4.5, maybe.
I don't think so. I still think so. Go ahead.
I think from their regeneration, I think they're going to catch people with their pants down with the volume of regen that they can generate. Like, I don't know if you guys have run the numbers, but it's not insignificant with like uncapped regeneration.
Yes, well, but they've always been able to do something fairly similar. The problem is if they come against an army that can rip the heart out of them, in that unit that they're trying to regen, or those couple of units, then that's where they fall down. Or if you've got people that can just snipe the characters out that do the regen, it's the same problem. They just don't. They've got mobility, yes. They just don't have range, which is an issue. They don't have incredible casting, which is okay, and they don't have. They just don't have like the punch that some other armies have, in my opinion. So I think 3 games.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I was going to get this funny because I was going to also go 3. And yes, as somebody pointed out, Gary P is in the chat and he talked about there's a list that can summon an extra 1,000 points or some ridiculously huge number, right? At the sort of turn 1, right? That's the levels you can push it to. Okay. Like there are plenty of armies in the meta that could easily kill 3,000 points of low armor, relatively not tough guys without batting an eyelash. Like that's the problem. Like, yeah, you got a bunch of low quality bodies. Most of them don't hit super hard. Most of them don't. They just don't have, to me, that's too much of a variation on a single theme. They're the Ironjawz without the punch. You can just make lots of low quality dudes. Or mid-quality dudes, I suppose, in the case of some of the bigger ones. I think they are still like moreover, here's a meta concern. But moreover, I think there's a time concern to playing this army because it's so many tiny dudes you got to move around and all over the place and get all this and refill your units and roll everybody and check everybody and roll a ton of dice. You're gonna time out in games, right? Like it's a silly concern, but it's there. Like this is an incredibly time-consuming army to play. So.
Yep.
I just like it's if the question is how much garbage can I put in a pile before it becomes gold?
Flesh Eater Courts, everyone. Collect them. Start collecting box now.
Like, I'm sorry, but that's all it is. Like, it's just more garbage you've piled on. It doesn't suddenly transmute to diamond.
So 3 games, right?
3 games. 3 is my solid thing on them. Yes, I was going to have that same. It's funny you said that because that was going to be my number.
I think there's more potential in there, but that's fine.
All right. Well, let's keep going. Let's talk about Chaos. And if we're going to go to Chaos round 2, then there's only one thing to do, and that is to talk about the grossest, the sickest, the most pustulant of all, and that is Big Papa Nurgle. So, Tommy, you got to lead us on this one, man. Where are we at with Nurgle?
I think Nurgle has only gotten stronger in the new world.
Yeah.
I think that like obviously Plague Touched is a thing of the past now.
It was a crutch. Throw it away. You don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that. I think you're just going to end up with higher drop lists, or you're going to end up with a blight cyst. Is likely what you'll end up with.
Sure.
I think that a lot of their utility has stayed. I think that they suffer from casting bonuses unless you have like a Guo, and so that's going to be that's going to bite you with endless spells. But I would say that Nurgle, more than arguably other armies, are going to benefit from things like cogs, and even from like the Balewind more than other armies, because cogs just doing more of what they do well, which is like ridiculous mobility that they shouldn't have, so cogs is going to do more of that. And then like Balewind, like one of the big hindrances that I always found that I just felt really uncomfortable with Nurgle when I was building lists at the end of 1.0 was that like it was a bunch of single casters, like Festus, like the Sorcerer, and I just like I wasn't down for that. Like it was awkward because it was like I didn't like what it was doing to my army. But now they have they can get bites at that multicasting through endless spells. And so I think that that's going to be a benefit.
All right.
Things like the table-wide mortal wounds from Festus, for example.
Sure.
Like he'll be able to just camp a back spawn point and still drop some mortal wounds and punch people in the face.
Do you mean Rotigus or Festus?
I'm in Rotigus. I'm sorry.
Rotigus, yeah.
Yeah.
I had already translated in my mind what Tom meant.
Yes. I don't know. They're both us, and they're gross.
Sure. It's all just like look. I've watched a lot of the Olympics, and I know that in things like the 100-yard, 200-yard dash relays, it's usually diseased, obese people who win those races. So, I mean, it's obvious that they should be the fastest running army in the game. It doesn't make aligns perfectly to my expectations.
Clearly. Yeah, I think that they have a terrible summoning mechanic, but I think that I think that it's like Drone Strike is still going to be amazing. They're still going to do a lot of wounds. They're still going to jet across the table.
I think they have the weakest chaos summoning mechanic. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool. Rob, Nurgle thoughts?
5 out of 5.
Yeah, I think they're 5 out of 5. So yeah, like to put a number on it. I mean, I think they're going to do well.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. They, in my opinion, I think Blades is a trap. Personally, I mean, look. To quote Tom, there's going to be someone there with a dispel scroll waiting to get you with your endless spell, which means they're waiting to get you with blades, right? It's. I think disavow yourself as a Nurgle player that you're ever going to cast blades, and just don't try. Do something else. If you build your list and you happen to have a wizard that can then also cast blades, then great, take it. But look at other ways to, I think, that build that army, because building it around a single spell is definitely in the future going to be, I think, a weakness. Plague Bearers, incredible, obviously. Plague Monks, just as incredible. You got Hammer and Anvil in combat all day long. I think Plague Drones are overcosted personally. And I think, I think the movement thing personally as well is unbelievable. So yeah, so good. Have that movement just be something that's always in your mind and be like, I'm not a slow army anymore. I'm a rapid army, and I'm a rapid army of the most obnoxiously tough to shift 30 wounds that you're ever going to see in your life in Plague Bearers. And Plague Monks, oh my God, what's not to say? Rotigus is great. I think Rotigus and the Wheel is just a gatekeeper army, right? That as an army, someone's like, I've got Rotigus and I've got the Wheel. This is my plan. And then he's the gatekeeper army for many people that only have 2 characters, or they've got the one wizard that can score on that objective. And it's like, no, you don't. That's the end. There's loads of builds. There's loads of good things. There's some secretly good war scrolls. Being able to, for one command point, make everyone within 14 inches immune to battle shock is good. Shall we show him? Look at this fella. Do you know who this is? Being painted up by Mr. Jonathan Etland himself right now. That looks amazing, by the way. I can't believe you put that tonight. That's Kaziak the Befouled.
Oh yeah, sure. Yes.
Yeah, and his command ability for 1 command point is he's 120 points, 7 wounds. He's got a 3-up save, 4-up ignore damage save. His command ability is everyone within 14 inches ignores battle shock. Just do that on Plague Monks.
I dig it.
Yeah, and Nurgle keyword, amazing. 5 games all day, and build it how you like. Just don't take blades. Just enjoy yourself.
I agree. Banking on.
And also Beast of Nurgle are really good.
Oh wow. Okay, bold call right there. Yeah, no, they're 5ers. They totally are. I agree. Like they just have so many tools in the toolbox: mortal wounds, speed, bodies, toughness, resilience. Like it's
sexy good looks.
Pass on that. So they are crazy versatile in the number of different ways that they can be built and put on the table and things they can achieve. I agree completely. And they don't need blades. Again, it is a crutch. It's fine to have if it's not your strat. If it's just a thing you're doing as a bonus, cool. But building around it is a trap, right? So if it happens to go off and then you shred a unit, sweet. You know what I mean? Cool. But like you don't make that your skew strat. That's a trap. So okay. Yeah. Let's talk about let's move to destruction. And for round 2 here, and let's talk about our savages, our Bonesplitterz. Okay. Our Khorne and associated other things. What's our thoughts on these guys now? Tom, you've had some thoughts on these dudes. You want to start us off on these guys?
I mean, I think they'll be. I think inevitably they're going to run into the problem. Like they will not be able to fight through the chaff. I think they're going to run into a problem where, like, the big.
You don't think they just can't shoot it down?
No, they can shoot whatever they want within 18 inches or 16 inches or whatever their thing is. And what's going to, like, the key was that they could, like, run across the table and high mobility, and they're just going to bump into, like, it just takes, a couple things to be in the way, but they have to split all their shots and they're just going to time out.
Okay.
Like, I mean, honestly, like, I think that they're going to, like, I think it'll still be good to some degree, but I think that they're, like, things like a lot of their abilities were, like, triggering on 6s, right?
Sure.
And now against characters, all those bonus shots turn off.
I wonder how much the points adjustment affected them, because obviously everything got more expensive for their traditional view list, right?
Right.
I certainly that kneecapped them some. I've never thought that they were. I've always thought they were a bad play experience. Okay.
Yes, they are.
Because it's just like pick up the buckets of dice, roll the buckets of dice, roll the buckets of dice again, roll the buckets of dice one more time, and then a couple wounds happen. Right, is often the outcome of that.
Right.
But here's my reverse question: did they get boosted by the lack of by Mystic Shield changing? So it's harder for units to have a naturally lower save and bounce their arrows.
Maybe.
They were always a weight of number. They were always a weight of numbers attacker as opposed to a rend attacker anyway. So they didn't care you had a 3-up save. They were going to give you 250 wounds to save, and you were just going to die. Like that was their tactic. I think
nonetheless, when you could go to like 2-up rerolling 1s. Numbers are irrelevant, right? Like if you can put 36,000 shots at me, I'm still going to walk away because I only fail 1 in 36 saves, right? Statistically. But anyways, okay. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
I would say if they had a weakness, which I think they do have a few, it's that they don't have a very survivable character.
Yeah.
They don't have a big character who can go and take objectives, hold objectives, and now if you're playing all of the missions, your chances of those 2 particular scenarios where only one of them it's vital, and the other one it helps. But if people just run them for a while, that is a key gatekeeper, I think, for people, and it's going to be an issue. But that said, I think probably Bonesplitterz suffer from that problem that no one's ever given them a run apart from just throwing cunning rooks at people. No one's probably explored that battle tome any further than I can shoot 900 arrows a turn. Like, what else is really there But I think you hit the same problem that things like the Ironjawz do, where they hit chaff screens and they just hit what you got to hit. But the arrows can clear their way a little bit. So I don't know. I honestly couldn't say that I know enough to have an honest opinion, but I know that they have a character strength weakness. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And mortal wounds weakness. Like they don't have mortal wounds.
So we've got to put a number on them. So since we're using Rob's system, 3 to 4. That's my number. There you go.
I would do
Rob
like
hard 3.
3 to 4. A 3 to 4.
I'd say 3.
All right. There you go. Okay, let's spin it back around. Then we're gonna spin it back around because I know we're running long, and I know Tom's got to go soon. So, but I want to give everybody their due here because we got a lot. So we're gonna step it up now. All right. So more of a lightning round thing. So here we go. Daughters. Right. Okay. Daughters of Khaine.
Yep.
Who's got it out? Strengths, obviously, unbelievable offensive power, good speed, benefits a lot from endless spells. Has one of the best, best casters to take advantage in the game of that in Morathi. I like Daughters a lot. Can also be built for a weird sort of pseudo defense. Puts bodies on the table. Has good options for. Has plenty of different mortal wounds ways to get at things. Can skull crack like the best of them. Assume Mind Razor gets countered now most of the time for the same reason you don't rely on blades. You don't want to build around Mind Razor, right? The same problem's going to come up there. You shouldn't need Mind Razor. Your prayers often will be able to carry you through. Who else? To me, Daughters right now, I'm gonna say 4, drifting 4 to 5. That's my number on them. Anybody else have anything else they want to add on Daughters or additional thoughts?
No, I mean, it's moved me. I will say this: the nerf has moved me away from Drakey, because I want 2 artifacts. Like, I really want 2 artifacts.
Yeah, you mean the battalion increased cost? Is that what you're pointing at when you say nerf?
No, like the battalion increased cost combined with the change in the shift in the meta, having predominance of Dispel Scrolls. Like before, the big thing for Drakey was it would still let me get at the command trait that let me project my my bravery out so that I could get everybody at a bravery 11.
Yep.
And so it made Mind Razor redonkulous on whoever I put it on. And it makes me the changing meta skews me more towards Hagnar.
Yep.
Because of the mortal wounds. So just obviously defense in a world of multiple mortal wound spells, and it allows you to get the second. It allows you to get the other spell, the other ability, the lens. So the lens, because they are an army that bunkers well around a cauldron, and so you can stretch out your lines from the cauldron, and then everybody within that radius, that bubble, suddenly is immune to spells.
I'd say that. So I'd say that they already have the natural defense against mortal wounds in hordes. Hordes are the natural defense against mortal wounds, because mortal wounds, even Scryer as an example, when that was popping up and doing mortal wounds, it was doing mortal wounds, and so everyone put hordes on the board, and then it didn't matter that you did 63 mortal wounds to a unit of goblins, because they were like, "That's cool, man. We're going to kill you now," and that's how the game progressed forward, and that we haven't done anything that's made those hordes move away. So I think, and they have them in spades. So I think 4 to 5 games for Daughters. The only issue I can see is that if people do develop a chaff meta where people just put chaff up a lot, talking about the Seraphon as an example, if people put summoned units in the way of those units, or units to die so that the summoned units can also then be the next blocker, they're going to be in a tough spot moving through them. That's my only thoughts.
Sure.
4 to 5.
I'm solid 4, drifting 4 to 5 as well. We can't go by without mentioning the power of something like Witch Brew, right? Like, their hordes are not only great at just by being hordes, but also having a solid 6-up and also being very resistant to Battle Shock. Yeah. Well, I say resistant because that is a fairly easy character to snipe if you can do it right. But nonetheless, that's an incredible out of the box power to just be like, this unit doesn't care about Battle Shock. All of these big 30 blocks of murder killers Just don't care. Just shake it off. Taylor Swift style. All right. So, cool. Let's keep moving. Khorne. Lightning round on Khorne. I'm going to say this out there. The Khorne has either the first or second, either best or second best summoning mechanic. Gary P is going to disagree with me. I don't care, Gary, you're wrong. Blood Tithe is amazing. And I'll tell you why Blood Tithe is amazing. Because it's the Khorne consolation prize. Do you know what happens in every game? They want to kill your units. And you want to kill theirs. That is how this game works. And as a result of that, your main mechanic is fueled. You didn't have to do anything special other than play the game. Okay? And their summoning can be used for a lot of interesting different things. They also retained the 8-point summon, which can be used off turn. Okay, so like their 8-point big summon demon can be used in the enemy hero turn. I think they have a huge variance of characters. They respond well to synergy. Command point stacking is a thing. They still have a ton of battalions. Okay. And
Blood Tithe is in the hero phase?
Yes, you can only summon. Yes, Blood Tithe is normally in the hero phase, and you can do it in your opponent's or yours. So, like, you can charge off turn and stuff like that. But the summon use of Blood Tithe, like the standard summon list, the non-8-point one, where you're just cashing out your Blood Tithe points, is you're cashing it at the end of your movement phase. They have a lot of heroes, a lot of good command abilities, generate a lot of attacks.
Wait, say that again? You cash out at the end of your movement phase?
Yes.
Where does it say that?
Oh my God. I'm not here to reread all this specific crap for you. You read your own. It's the books in front of you, Tom.
I'm literally, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. If you have 2 or more Blood Tithe points at the end of your movement phase, you can summon 1 or more units from the list below onto the battlefield and add them to your army. Each unit you summon costs a number of Blood Tithe points as shown on the list, and you can only summon a unit if you have enough Blood Tithe points to pay its cost. If you summon any units in this matter, your Blood Tithe points total is reset to 0 immediately after the last unit has been set up. Begin parens. You cannot save any Blood Tithe points. You do not use close parens, period. There you go. All right.
Yeah. I don't think that these are like I'm mixed on that. You say it's the best summoning mechanic, but the reality is that what it means is that you can only summon once per turn. And
no, you can cash it in multiple. You don't have to blow it all in one unit. You can summon multiple units simultaneously. Read it again. I can use 3 and 2 and 2. That's valid.
I would say that the only issue with the summoning mechanic is that you're requiring those Blood Tithe points, and those Blood Tithe points may often be used to shut down spells.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree. It's a challenge because there's a pull there, and I think that's what bothered Gary, and I agree with it. That's a tension. Right, in that you are frequently going to want to use those for other things, like auto dispels, which is immensely good. But you don't also always need to summon, right? Like, what I like is the variability of it, though. That I can suddenly charge in my opponent's hero phase, or I can suddenly, whatever, right? Like, I've got potential to go in multiple different directions. I also think just like unit-wise, Wrathmongers are stronger now that people can't choose not to attack.
God, they're so good.
Like, Slaughter Priests are just generally a good unit. Like, being able to Blood Boil and pull people off of objectives is a pretty solid thing, right? Like, they've got a lot of great tools in the toolbox. Killing Frenzy is good. They still have legit Mystic Shield that can be multicast. Like, these guys have tools.
Yeah, and they can generate like reliably like 4 to 6 Blood Tithe points a turn without losing any models too. If they really want to.
Right.
And they've got Scarblood Wrath, best horde killer in the game.
Who comes back now for like, not points. So
yeah, he does.
Like the only shame of it is that their Bloodthirsters are so stupid and bad. Like that's it.
So bad. And Skarak, the Bloodborne, got worse for some reason.
Yeah, sure. Like the power of their army is not in their big dumb demons, right? It's in just like their dudes. They've got great dudes. If you're looking for ripped, muscled dudes, this is the army you want to get at. Okay? They have the best dudes, just ready to get up in the enemy, get into them.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a 4.
I agree. That would still be, despite all what I just said, I think they're a solid 4. Yes. I think Blades has got gas. All right. Okay. Next up, Deepkin. We need to talk about him. We need to talk about all the new people. Fishy boys. Let's talk about the fish boys.
Deepkin. They lack wizards. They got a strong wizard, but he's expensive and fairly nukeable. They've got speed. I've literally been talking about Deepkin today, and I think that no one's playing them right. The sound of the entire internet coming for me. Oh no, don't hurt me. I think the eels that are defensive eels and eels that aren't offensive eels are the way to go. That's my feelings. And if you don't agree, that's fine. I've often been wrong, and I will often continue to be wrong. I think thralls are incredible for their damage output potentially, and I think it's a different way than the Alpha Strike eels. I think is my feelings. It's more bodies on the board, and it's more defense. And it's being clever. The run away and charge. You know, it's a bit like blades, right? You look at things that you go, "Oh my god, that's amazing," but is that the actual power, or is it something else? And that's the thing for me. So I think possibly 4 to 5 games with Idoneth, but I think maybe a different way to people are playing them. And if someone's playing them that way and it's like, Rob, that's correct, or you're an idiot, whichever you prefer, that's fine. Tweet me. I don't read my Twitter. I don't often read my Twitter anyway, so let's continue.
Sure. Tommy, any different number?
No, I think you're overestimating them. I don't think they have the staying power in a world of resummoning chaff walls and stuff like that. Like, I just don't think that. I think that they're overcosted for what they do.
Do they need to, like? I mean, 3-up saves ignoring rend. Like, that's if they're not in cover. Like, it's
a volume game. It's a numbers game. And like at the end of the day, like I get that, but if they don't go anywhere, because those guys are stuck on 10 pink horrors or whatever, you know, like like I don't know. I just that combined with like the fact that mortal wounds, like, those guys are just going to get spelled off the table. Okay. Like from a Nagash or anything like that. Like, and now Ren doesn't matter. Like in a world where, that's what I would say. Like, I think the rest of the meta is going to eat them, is what I would say.
All right. Well, time will tell on that one. All right. Now, as we get to our last few minutes here, because we got to call this to a close, true lightning round. So we're going to go around. Everybody's going to say their number and one thing why, like one strength, weakness, like literally a couple words. So here we go. Ready? Hard lightning round time. Free Peoples. Rob, what do you got?
Gun line, can't get objectives, 3.
All right. Tom?
3. Yeah.
I also agree 3. Yep. Many weaknesses. Those are my 2 words. Skaven. Rob, go. Rats in any form you want to take them.
4 to 5.
Wow. High rating for the rats. I dig it. All right. Is Crown of Conquest or whatever the word's in there anywhere? Or just you like things?
Well, the current number 1 AoS player is in Australia is a rat player specifically, and he themes his army. He won't even take a Chaos Lord on Storm Vermin. He just refuses. And that would make them better, right? He did an interview with me. He's doing really well. I'm speaking for him. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it. So 4 to 5.
All right, Tom.
3.5.
Wow. All right. I'll take the middle ground and say 4 because I can't do any worse for my rats. All right. Next up, straight old dispossessed. Rob.
Oh my God. Fuck you, dispossessed Dan. 3.
Oh, there it is, Tom.
I'll go with 4.
Okay. I'm rocking. I'm supporting 3 here as well. All right. Next up, Brayherd. Rob, go.
That's the noises they make, by the way. I go for 2 to 3.
Yep. Limited options, many weaknesses. I also am 2 to 3. Tom?
3.
Oh, all right. You're going all the way up to the 3.
I think they have some tools that people have discounted.
Respect.
3s. Yeah.
All right. Rob, Wanderers, go.
Oh my god! Do you know what? Ever since I read that they left the Sylvaneth and ran off to Azerheim, one, yeah, you dirty traitors, and that's a narrative choice, yeah.
Sure. Tom,
3.5.
All right. And then we end on the most important one, like the critical one, the one we can't skip. Slaanesh. Rob.
Slaanesh. I think really high, 4.
Tom?
I'd say 4 to 4.5. Like 4 now, 5 in a couple months.
Yep, but I'm 4 trending 5. It will give you everything you desire, including the win, but take away everything you need, i.e. the time in your life with your loved ones, because you'll be painting too many little hot Daemonette chicks. All right, so that brings us to the end. Oh, sorry. I know you're right. I did skip Sylvaneth. I'm sorry. The trees. Go. I forget they exist because they have a fake god. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob. Sylvaneth.
5.
Yeah.
Sylvaneth are back in a big way.
Huge way. I'm very sorry to the Sylvaneth players that I skipped them. They deserve their own deep dive. We're going to do a Sylvaneth show here very soon with Tyler because they're coming back big time. So I agree. 5 hard. Here's my closing thought. I think we've said a lot of 4s and 5s. A lot. What's amazing to me is how many things I think are competitive or highly competitive in this current meta. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's in a really great place. Obviously, a lot of the conversations we had were, I think, under the assumption that summoning gets sorted to a degree with Seraphon,
right?
And also command ability stacking is also sorted out. Also, big shout out to Moonclan Grotz, 5 games all day long.
There it is.
5 games, 5 days.
5 in a couple months.
I think that's my closing thought. I think that's great that there's a good balance of stuff that people can take, and they've got some great options. Also, the scenarios are fantastic.
There you go. Tom, any final closing thoughts?
KO
2 or 1? Where are you putting them?
KO can probably pull a 3 game.
Okay. Right on. See, good man.
I think KO can probably pull a 3 game.
All right. There you go. All right. So for me, I'll say I think there's a lot of interesting competitive choices. And by the way, when you go down even a little below this, I think a lot of these things, where the rubber meets the road, good players will take, mediocre lists and often do exceptionally well with them. So as always, if you agree with what we said, disagree with what we said, drop it down in the comments, because as always, we don't know what the heck we're talking about. This is all semi-educated guessing, and these are our opinions and should be taken as nothing more. But as always, Rob, thank you, man. I know this was a long show. I appreciate you sticking in there. It's always an absolute pleasure, brother.
It's my pleasure.
Everything
you guys are fantastic. People should appreciate you a lot.
It's always fun to hang out. Everything Honest Wargamer will be linked down below. Check that out. As always, thank you for watching. We appreciate it very much, and we'll see you next Wednesday.